kind of links that and that, so later on in editing we can just match the claps.
Perfect. Oh, perfect.
And
I thought we were doing snap-on clap on, clap off.
Oh yeah, we don't have one of the fancy clapper boards.
I get it.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling podcast. Today we had Conrad Zurini. Did I pronounce it right?
Very good. Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
And welcome to the program. I'm so excited to be talking with you.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. And it worked out well that you were in Canada during this period of time.
Absolutely. And as I was driving down here, okay, got to be patient here. Remember to do that. Okay. So let us. Okay, and you can pull over when you're.
Sure.
Why is this thing rolling around? That's what.
I'll do that.
Here we go. That's what's doing it. We're going to start this thing again. All right. One more clap. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling podcast. Today I'm here with Conrad Zurini.
Yes, excellent. Yeah.
Got it.
Conrad Zurini, well done. My companies are called Remax Escarpment and Remax Niagara. We run two different brands throughout Southern Ontario, the golden horseshoe, so to speak.
Brilliant. So when did you start this business, and did you have this phenomenal growth in mind when you started, or did it accidentally happen?
Yeah, so 11 years ago, we started with approximately around 75, 80 agents, but I had a vision to grow it much larger. So we decided to bring about the people. Like it's all about relationships and partnerships. So right out of the gate, I decided to bring in a major bank as a in-house lender. We actually created a mortgage brokerage as well, and created a law firm as well. Because in Canada, we don't use lawyers still close the deals. Title is there is title, but it's a title.
It's not like the U.S.
Not like the U.S. Company, exactly. So lawyers still do the transaction, register the mortgages, and all that kind of stuff. So we brought all these people together and thought, how can I start to leverage their knowledge of the business? So we started this one-stop shop, and we called it In the Square. And we actually created a space where all the partners were together, and we had synergies. And we also had an insurance company as well, property and auto insurance. So that's how it started. And then slowly but surely, again, we would do market updates. We created some really great momentum with all the partnership, a lot of great knowledge sharing, and we started to grow. And now we're at just over 900 agents and two different brands. And it was very strategic, and it was we grew kind of as we dominated an area, a geographic area. Then we decided, okay, we kind of put another office, and we kind of done that. So we are uninterrupted. So from the U.S. border, like at Fort Erie, which is a small little town on the other side of Buffalo.
Cross it often.
Yeah. So from Fort Erie all the way to Oakville, which is just outside Toronto, Mississauga. Yeah. So, and again, it's continuous, because I always wanted to have continuous, unbroken service for consumers. And I also want to have data, pure, clean data. So we do showing data, all kinds of data that we study, consumer behavior data and things like that as well. So I wanted to have it pure and consistent, that we'd be able to offer our consumers a better way to make a decision.
Brilliant. So there's many questions, and I'm going to miss half of the ones I've got in my head, but let's go back to data. So did you read the book Good to Great?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So in Good to Great, one of the things they take a look at is what do you measure? They had the hedgehog principle, like where is the passion? What are you passionate about? What could you be best in the world at? And how do you measure it? And for Walgreens, as an example, they could measure a million things with their computers, but what they chose to measure above all was profitability per shopping bag became the driver for the entire company. So there's lots of data that runs your business. Mm-hmm. Are there any particular data sets that are more important than others, that are predictive, or if we monitor this, we're going to be successful?
Yeah, we started to look at how successful our agents were at retaining their clientele. I think that's where it really started. And we looked at how successful was the company at retaining that particular client. The company was very successful because we, in our little neck of the world, we have about over 30% market share, just our own company in the area. So we felt that we were doing very, very well with that. But we felt the individual agent wasn't doing as well. So we created kind of like electronic pre-list.
Right.
It's called Real Intro. It's a reputational management website, a mobile website for our agents that actually has them rank much higher on Google. So when people search somebody, Umar, they're gonna, hey, Umar was suggested to me, I'm gonna search him. So you always want to control your first 5. But what we built in this was an opportunity for them to send it to a client, and then the client would review different, we call them the widgets. So everybody puts their stats, they've got their warm and fuzzy testimonials, some marketing materials, things about the company. So they would monitor what the consumer picked, and then when they would go meet with the actual home, the seller, they would actually know what they were into. Were they into the warm and fuzzies? Were they into the data points and things like that? So then they could focus their presentation on what was very, very important to the consumer. So we've always been all about that. Analyzing the consumer, creating a bespoke strategic marketing plan for that particular home based on the way they absorb information and knowledge. So that's what we really kind of dug into, because we wanted to get those numbers up where they would use the same realtor. Because National Association of Realtors says it's about 23%. We were probably around that 30, 35, 36%, and over 70% as a company.
Wow, that's pretty huge. So I love AI. And I was looking at this one particular interesting, thank you so much for that, use of AI. So there's a problem with dairy farms. The dairy business really sucks because you have to milk the cows often. And so a lot of young people don't want to participate in that industry because the quality of life is really low.
Yes.
So they created this new dairy farm where they gave all the cows a Fitbit that went around their necks. And when Betsy wants to be milked, she comes up to the milking station. It identifies her with the RFID tag. The gates open. She comes in. They automatically wash the udders. The suction device comes in. They milk the cow. They open the door, pat her on the butt, and she goes out in the field, and it's all automated. And what that did was 2 things. Number one, it became a tourist destination. Old people wanted to see the automation. Young kids wanted to see the cows. So all of a sudden they've got a new income stream. But the thing that intrigued me was they know when cows get sick. Because they got a Fitbit, they know the gait of the cow. And they go, oh, Betsy got sick here. Did the gait change? It's like 4 weeks ago, her gait changed. And that was predictive of her getting sick. So instead of waiting a month to call the vet, as soon as the gait changes, we can call the vet, and it's like a small little bill and the cow's happy. So all of that said, you're collecting a lot of data for your agents. Are there any predictive numbers that you can go, oh, wait a minute, Joan is falling off the pace, or somebody's ready to explode? Do you see any trends like that you can predict where agents need help or celebration?
Well, it's interesting because the next generation of our Real Intro is we're building an algorithm. Well, we've already started playing kind of a match game on our website now. So we're trying to, it's very binary now. So consumers would come in and pick different disciplines, different areas, and then we'd serve them up some agents. But the next reiteration of it is AI. And what we're going to do is we're going to be able to match. So Umar, you're like a foodie, you like golf. Conrad, realtor, I'm a foodie, I like golf, and we're going to kind of match the two together. Because what we feel is that, it's so interesting. How do you empower a consumer to pick an agent? It's
right.
It's the agent. It's a crapshoot, and it's the agents with the biggest marketing budget. Which no disrespect, because we have that win every day. How about a platform where a consumer can be empowered? Okay, so once they've weeded out all the people that don't kind of match with their personality, then they can we layer it with stats, days on market, your list to sales ratio, all that kind of thing. So a consumer can say, hey, this particular agent, not only do they fit where I'm coming from, but they also have the numbers to back it up as well. And we're going to be doing side-by-side comparisons of realtors based on their stats, almost like baseball cards in a sense, right? And looking at their stats all side by side. Because everybody, the big cop out, and I find always with coaches, and everybody says, well, you don't keep in touch. The reason why you lose that client is you don't keep in touch. I think it's at the beginning where it wasn't a pure match. Something happened during the transaction. I don't know what it was, where you became an adversary or instead of an advocate or whatever it might have been, that just rubbed them the wrong way. Set the tone, and then they always seem to remember that. But if we were to match people at the very beginning, and you don't even have to mirror the other, because you are already a mirror of that client. I think if we can match people better together, because everybody's so different, and that's the beauty of this business.
Match, but match and measure.
Yes.
So the theory is The hypothesis is this, and then we monitor. But let me ask you a question, Conrad. Is there somebody in your life right now that you don't speak to often? That, it could be 3 years by when you speak to them next, but it feels like you just spoke to them yesterday. There is no time that's lost. There's a connection there that transcends time. Who's that for you?
Well, it's probably there's an aunt, my dad's sister, that we don't talk enough, but we just went. It's funny because we just all went out for lunch, or actually dinner the other day. I was getting an MRI where she lives. She lives out of town, and my cousin and her, we went out for dinner, and it was like we hadn't lost a second.
And that's what you're trying to do. What it sounds like is that you make that connection up front.
Yes.
And then
then it's super easy. Look, I am the laziest guy in the room, I will tell you. So I used to sell. I was actively selling 25 years ago.
Right.
The other day, I get a call, and it has some initials on it. 7:30 in the morning. I pick up the call, and he says, and I said, "Hello, Conrad speaking." It's 7:30 a.m. I'm thinking, was it somebody from out east? Because somebody out east, Europe. I'm thinking, who could call me at 7:30? And the guy says, "Hey, it's John." His actual name is John. He goes, "It's John." And he said, "You sold me a house, a new build, 20 years ago, and you were so patient with my wife and I. We'd love you to help us buy a house again." Now, I have not communicated with these people
for 2 decades.
Yeah, 2 decades, exactly 2 decades. I'm not even kidding. So I'm not active selling. So I did actually meet with them, and it was like we had not lost a bit of time. Exactly. We connected. And the funny thing is, John and I would always, and her name is, believe it or not, is Mary. So hopefully they'll listen to the story. But John and I would group together because Mary's got a very strong personality,
right,
and John's salt of the earth. And John and I pick on Mary. And we picked up right where we left off, which was amazing.
And Mary's like, "Damn it."
Yeah. So she goes, "Maybe it wasn't such a good idea." But John took the lead to call me. But the thing is this, it's interesting because, I think that's what it really comes down to. I think that's what it's all about. Look, I'm all about communication, but I enriching communication. Like, don't just send, and I always make fun of people that send newsletters with beer can chicken recipes. Like, we are not, like, why are we the dispenser of recipes?
That's like hokey and inauthentic.
Yes.
So my personal theory is that there's a better version of Conrad in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. And right now, when you look at your agents, the 900 plus, there's some agents that stand out, and some of them you kind of go, if Jane would just be more confident here, because everyone around her can see she's a rock star. For some reason, she just isn't. Mm-hmm. That when she steps into who she truly is, you don't have to put on airs.
Yes.
And then that's what people connect with, is when they connect with you and you're the authentic self, that's when magic happens.
Yes. Well, that authenticity, and they're always talking about that authenticity. But it's funny because a lot of coaches and the big, like I said, the big cop-out is, well, wait a minute, you're not communicating to them enough. But I think if you give them this great experience and this true authentic self, I'll give you a great example. We had an agent, her name was Josie. She's still with us. She's kind of semi-retired. Back in the day when we advertised in newspapers, she would do a border of elephants, nose to snout, like trunk to tail, all around her ad. Yeah. Innocuous, nobody really. But the people that were collecting and into elephants, they loved it, and they would call her just because of that subliminal elephant image. But it was there. It was subtle, but there. And they connected. And she became known as the elephant lady, but for more positive reasons. Yes. Yeah. And she used to collect elephants. And she used to, the kids used to come into her office and they'd get to pick an elephant. She would have like 400 or 500 different elephants because we would all give her elephants. Right. And she collected them. And kids would come in and they would make their day. And she had this whole career based on this elephant commonality thing.
It.
Yeah.
So in my worldview, every single human being on planet Earth has a purpose in life. The only problem is most people don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. And nobody has time to go to a meditation retreat for 2 years. Yes. But there's ways of doing that. And when we teach people what their purpose is, they can actually make that their brand as a realtor. Mm-hmm. And what that does is they don't have to pretend to be something. This is who I am. And when you do that, people get attracted to that. Exactly. And so world according to Umar, we each have 3 faces. We have this face we show the outside world. Mm-hmm. Look at me, I'm pretty, I'm amazing, I'm smart. By the way, I am.
In your case, it's true.
Yeah, it's true. It happens to me. And my wife would say, you're not as funny as you think. But anyway, then you've got other people that are like, I'm broken, I'm a victim, and that's their mask they show the outside world. Then they have a sense of who they are. This is who I am. But then there's a true, authentic self. And I think part of the journey of life is finding that true, authentic self, because then you don't have this illusion of who you think you are. You know who you are. And when you've got that in confidence, this is what you show the outside world. And that's the sense I get of you, is that what I see here today on this interview is what you'd be, who you'd be if you're hanging out with friends, or John and Mary.
Well, exactly, and I had a very transparent experience. Like back in the day, we used to present offers. We didn't have DocuSign, so we would have kitchen table like this, which was amazing. And you drive back to their house at 11:30 p.m. and get it signed. And I kind of missed that whole part of it. But again, I never tried to demonize the other side, but I always tried to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what they're doing. This is my thoughts. This is why they've come back with this sign back. I always said they're 5-year-olds playing soccer. Maybe it's about the number, but maybe we can deal with the closing date or some of the other conditions or terms. And that's what I always said. I always played this, I always made them and included them into this whole transaction.
Nice.
Where a lot of realtors were like, oh, I got to keep it to myself. I'm not going to do
expert,
that.
Yeah.
But I think I've always believed in transparency. And look, we're in the age of the self-educated consumer, and they often know more than we know. And I think it's all about feeding into that. Look, they're going to have 6 weeks, 8 weeks. They're going to be right into the real estate transaction. We're into it 24/7. Why not include them, be a part of it? It's a huge investment, and I think I've always believed in that. And yeah, it's very interesting. How do you get that true, authentic self? How do you attract people? That law of attraction. I've talked about passion pages with people.
Absolutely.
They tried them for a little while. They all tell me, Conrad, it really, really worked. And then like 6, 7, 8 months later, it died.
Yeah.
But I think that's really what it's all about. Because if you look at any of my social media, it's me doing sound bites. Because I love sharing. I love opening it up. It's funny. I have so many of my competitors that watch my sound bites. And I see so many of my competitors using the things I said in my sound bites. But that's what it's all about, right? It's all about
absolutely
making a better industry and making a better self and the whole experience.
I think so, and it's part of that. How do you connect with people in a way that's authentic? Because when you do that, this is where you get trust. And when you were talking there, one of the things I was thinking about is data is available everywhere, but data is bullshit. What's genius is analysis. And I think that's where the consumer can look at the data, but it's the realtor, if there's trust there, they can put it into context. Exactly. This is what it means. And that level of trust that they have with their prospect makes that data more believable and more useful. And I think that's why people hire real estate agents, if they really think about it, is because the transaction, quote unquote, isn't that difficult, but there's lots of areas to make mistakes. And if you've got someone that knows what they're doing, and they can interpret what's going on, what are the other people thinking, this is what we should do, this is why, that's the magic of real estate.
Oh, I agree. I think you're right about the data. I always say if you can tell people two things they did not know, you build that incredible trust bridge. And I think that's really critical. But a lot of agents are lazy. And I think, well, look, one of my pet peeves is average price. So in Canada, we have a thing called the benchmark price, which our Canadian Real Estate Association created. So it takes the high highs out and the low lows.
Interesting.
It seasonally adjusts. And also what it does is it looks at, 2 bedrooms versus 4 bedroom, 5 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and all that kind of stuff. And it puts it all together. And it's called the benchmark price, or we have the home price index. Home price index shows you trends, and the benchmark price puts it in terms of dollars and cents. So people can kind of understand, it's almost like average price. So there's areas in Canada where they don't talk about average price anymore, like Calgary, for instance.
Right.
They don't even deal with average price because average price is very deceiving.
It was yesterday.
Yeah,
and their price is like
exactly. And the other problem is that you either have a bunch of low priced inventory pulling it down, or some high priced inventory pulling it up. So this benchmark is the, well, excuse the pun, it's the benchmark for pricing, and it really gives a good indication of where the market is. And it's interesting because if you look at average price versus benchmark price, you could really misguide people on it. And that's one of my big pet peeves. I just wrote a blog about it, is the media using average price and applying the new interest rates to the average price and all that kind of stuff. And really the average price, they're starting with the wrong number to begin with. And it's really causing consumers a lot of confusion. I think it's beholden upon us in the industry to kind of educate and give that other perspective. So take the data, but take good data, proper data, do the proper analysis, and do a deeper dive, because a lot of the data is this widespread Canada or statewide or provincial wide. I think you got to go really deep into the neighborhoods and really analyze where there's some opportunities and things like that, like a little deeper dive. And that's what realtors are all about, that whole local knowledge broker, like brokering local knowledge, right?
Brilliant. So I came into this office. This is in Burlington,
yes,
on Brant Street.
Yes.
And it has a really nice look and feel of the office. Mm-hmm. Like we're sitting at this table right here that it's really nice. This could be in any boardroom. Mm-hmm. So there's a brand that you're creating. This is the only part of the brand that I've seen.
Yes.
Is you waiting outside for me, greeting me, which is very nice. And two, just kind of the look and feel of the place. So talk to me about the look and feel. Do your offices have different looks and feels, or is there a certain level of quality? Like, what are you going for? What kind of experience are you trying to create? Before you answer that, one of the things that really fascinates me is when you see architecture. Mm-hmm. There's architecture that's nice. There's architecture that makes you feel something, mm-hmm, which is magic. So what are you trying to get people to feel, and does it change office to office?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, so we're big investors in our offices. So we've had older offices in the fleet, and one of the issues when you have 14 offices and they're all open. So we have finger readers. So every office has we don't have fobs. For 10 years, we've had a finger reader. So we always say you can't
You
lose.
want your employees to give you the finger.
Yeah, exactly. That's our line. You once in a while you can give us the finger and we're okay with it. So basically, they could just zoom in, zoom out to office. So we wanted to have that accessibility. So we had some older offices that we had to upgrade, but we always took something of what was in the old office.
Like this one has a bank.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the vault. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And so we tried to always do something with the old office, but the original office. So there was some 70s offices with wood on the ceiling back in the 70s. So we recreated that in something more of a modern feel to it. But the cornerstone of all our offices was education, because our culture is a culture of curriculum. So curriculum is, people just think curriculum is studies. Well, it's the whole lifestyle of the student. It's the buildings. You're right. It's the architecture. It's how people feel. It's events that you do for the students. So we tried to create that in an office environment. So big cornerstone of most of our offices, if you would have gone to any of our large offices, is we have these meeting rooms that have flexible walls that open up, and they are training centers. So we have training centers probably in about, I would say, 8 of the 14 offices, because that's the thing we were all about: meeting, masterminding, collaborating. We would do meetings, like our annual meetings. We do 7 meetings, 11 days. We did a traveling road tour of office meetings.
Like an IPO. You're just going around.
Exactly. And we would do that. We do these market updates. Now, after COVID, virtually, we've gone that virtual. So now we've gone even hybrid now. So we have, we created we have a 120 seat training center. That's almost like a television studio. So we can have a studio audience. Mm-hmm. We have robotic cameras in the ceiling so that the people at home on Zoomland can see the audience.
Nice.
And we have speakers in the room, so when a Zoomland person asks a question, it's in the room, so they feel like they're in the room. And it's very, it's very three-dimensional, and we have guests coming and going. So we made it like you would be on, let's say, on a talk show. So we created that whole experience, and then people at home, and then there's that studio audience, because we found you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube because people still maybe want to watch, want to absorb information at home in their pajamas, so to speak, right? Nice. So really, if you went to any of our offices, that would be one of the front and center. It's usually right at the front. It's a training room. So again, we're all about education, evolving, processing of information. So that's the first thing that you would see. And we have a lot of people in the offices now. Some of our offices are 12 and 13,000 square feet, believe it or not. Like, people want individual offices. They're bringing their assistants there, and things like that, using the facilities for that. They're meeting their teams there. So there's always something going on in one of those. There's always an event going on somewhere.
Brilliant. Mm-hmm. So here's my description of best way to describe a company and its culture. If you had a white sheet of paper, just like you did in elementary school, science class, and you put a magnet underneath it, and you sprinkled iron filings on the paper, they would move to the lines of flux. So the paper is the company.
Yeah.
The iron filings are the behaviors and the attitudes of the staff. Mm-hmm. And the magnet underneath is the culture or the beliefs of the company. So when you have 1,000 agents, different personalities, how do you maintain culture? Like there's probably a vibe you want, a connection you want, caring, doing better. How do you measure culture? First, what is your culture? How do you measure it? And how do you course correct when people are not quite getting it?
Yeah. So again, our culture is a culture of curriculum. So it's looking at the agent in their life, from the social life to education to actually, the simple thing of processing transactions and all that kind of stuff, and tools and technology. So that's really what we're all about. So we've done something a little different. So we don't have a manager in every office. So what we've done is we created a group of specialists. So we have in the old days we used to call it a marketing department. Now it's an agency. So we have graphic designers. We have people that specialize in online advertising. Some of our people are Google Premier partners. They're building landing pages. We're teaching our agents how to create their own online lead generation ecosystem. And also we also have inside salespeople that are nurturing leads off of our websites, and then we distribute them back to the team. So at the end of the day, the entire staff from the front desk is all about how do we service our agents completely. We were the first people. We actually have a appointment center with human beings. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of the appointments are done online, but there's always something that goes wrong. An agent doesn't, the lockbox or whatever, the code's not working or something. There's always something goes wrong, or a seller wants to call and not email and what have you. So we have human beings actually answering, and we found that's a huge thing for us. And we also look at the data of appointments by price category and everything like that. So part of our thing is if we can't measure it, we don't effing do it. Okay. And we want to give data back to the sellers. Like, this is what's happening. So let's say our number one sale price in their area is like 2 to 3 million. They're priced at 2.5 million. They haven't had any showings. Well, then we say, hey, Houston, we got a problem here. So we got to make an adjustment, and we can show them that data point. And they understand that completely. So we're all about numbers. We can't measure it. We don't do it. My mom, who's been we're partners and we work together. My mom is there in her office from 10 a.m. to probably 8 p.m. Okay. And the entire staff knows that. She's legendary. Her office is kind of in the middle of the whole organization. So a lot of people are there sometimes late at night. And people see the way we work. Like my sister, so I have both my sisters are involved in business, and as we grew, we pulled them in. They weren't always there, nice. But as we grew, there was opportunities for them to join us. But I wasn't going to hire them if they didn't bring a specialty to the organization. So my sister Joey brings an IT specialty. My sister Mary she went to work for a property management company, so she brings the property management side of it. So that kind of thing. We have a company coach, a business coach. We have a videographer on staff. It's not about video of homes, but it's about personal videos and how to distribute video and how to edit video. So he's got his own team. We have a full-on agency that does, like I said, all that marketing. Nice. We have an upper end. So we're in what's the first of its kind in Canada, which is the RE/MAX collection, which is an upper end. And again, there's thresholds and the people that are in this office. So it's more boutique-y, like in the style of London, the London high office, or the locations, right? Those locations. So we did it in that tradition, and it's a downtown here. And the same thing we did in Niagara-on-the-Lake as well. So again, we had a specialist that did high end, and she's bringing all that. So she now helps the entire team go into that high end territory. So, and what's interesting is because it's a confidence builder, because I think people need confidence to enter that realm, and we create a whole bunch of tools to back them up, and we just teach them how to present them and use them and measure them to help their consumers make better decisions. So really, that's what it's all the way through. So all the way through, from the person that just answers the phone to our customer service in our appointment center and our ISAs, it all kind of follows through in terms of how can we help consumers first, because they're paying the bill. And a lot of our tech and a lot of our websites are very consumer focused. We have a neighborhood site, so people can analyze by neighborhood. We have an upper end site, luxury site. So, and actually we're going to be launching an iBuyer. What
does that mean in English?
English, the instant buyer. So, Instant Buyer. Remember Zillow got involved in Instant Buyer, and they kind of bought all those homes. But ours is called realibuyer.com. So it's the real estate agent is front and center through the whole transaction. And helps guide people along under a different platform. Rather than the MLS, it's going to be a smaller, closed platform. We're looking at I find there's D+ and C- listings that are not making it on the market because consumers are saying, I don't want that vulnerability of, maybe I'm a little bit of a clutter, bug or whatever it is, but we want to be able to have those homes come to the market. And now that we're into this market where it's shifting a little, I think people want to say, I want my home sold. Okay, maybe maybe test the market in a smaller format with real IVAR, with agents involved, and then then with cash in hand go to buy. So it's time. The time is ripe for it to happen in Canada, and we're going to be launching that probably September, October.
Brilliant. 2 more questions for you. Maybe 3. I like. Okay. So you run this company. There's probably areas that you need improving. And right now there's probably more polishing left and not much cutting left to do. So where's an area that you're focusing on you to be a better leader?
Well, when we started this conversation, you said, well, this is a great format. You can think about it.
You need it now.
I'm taking my mulligan or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. Or my lifeline. Maybe I call somebody. I think, what's funny? It's, we don't brag enough. Like, these are great opportunities that I can showcase what we do. And I do international speaking, like we had mentioned before we started. Like, it's great. These are the opportunities that we have to do that. And I think speaking about what we do and our systems and everything has made it even that much better. So that's what I found. I found, you know what, I have to talk about it, because you know the whole visualization thing. So I found if I talk about it and people start to use it and adopt it, there's some validation. Because the problem is, it's how do I get my team to adopt? Adoption is the biggest key thing. So we had to create something where they would have a reason to adopt it. So a lot of these tools, like Real iBuyer uses Real Intro. We also have a site called dutyagent.com, which is a virtual duty agent on duty. And again, it serves up Real Intro. So we had to create these things to get engagement. But I think part of it is, and what everybody says is, it's a fire hose. They come and join our company. It's a fire hose of tools and things, and they just get overwhelmed. And I think it's stop, take a breath. I think that's what I have to do a lot more of. Take a breath, find opportunities, build engagement, because that's what keeps me up at night. How can I engage, my agents to utilize the tools? How can I convince them that these tools are, really the way real estate is going? Our dutyagent.com is very simple. People can search on it. Okay, one of the options is they can search on it, and they can say, you know what, I want to see this. I'm available to see this house today between 3 and 6 o'clock. Who can show me? So our Real Intro profile, so all of our people on Real Intro will get notified of a certain area that, I don't know, some neighborhood, let's say downtown Burlington. They'll get notified that, are you free between this time and this time? And then it'll cap it at 5. And then the consumer will be able to go through those Real Intro profiles and decide and pick the which one. So, and again, we've made it so easy that they can flip a video on that neighborhood, or they can do some stats on that neighborhood. So when they send their profile, the consumer can say, wait, this person really is on the ball. So this is where we're going, and give that better experience and help people be attentive to the needs of their consumers. So that's what keeps me up. Take a breath, slow it down. That's really the key thing, because we're constantly coming up with new tools and things like that, and we're not taking the breath and educating and showing people how to use them properly. But it's one of those, is it the stick or the carrot? Like, sometimes you say, if you do this, you're going to do business, right? And we have agents that practice everything we do, and we point to them all the time. But a lot of people say, well, that's a lot of work. I'll stay with what I'm doing. But if you really want to know, that's where we have to improve. And it's bragging more and bragging properly. I don't think we boast enough about what we're doing. I don't think we do that enough internally, because some people say, I didn't even know we had that tool, and to the outside world.
Brilliant. And I think intent is such an important aspect of life. Like, your intent is to empower your agents.
Yes.
I want you to shine. This is a way for you to do that. And sometimes people take it as in, oh God, not another freaking tool. And what are they trying to do to me? And I think it's communicating that intent is like so critical. So 2 last questions. This one, I'm going to get you to look at the camera. And so here is the question. Conrad, what makes you happy?
Oh, boy. Well, I think when we look at some of the numbers, and it's the adoption rate, and when we get those success stories.
So let me pause you right there.
Okay, sure.
So this is Conrad the human being.
Oh, Conrad
the person
the human being.
In front of me. Like, what's in this world? What makes you happy?
where am I the most happiest? Or
So I started this.
This is the toughest question of all time.
So I sold my house in
Give me an example.
May last year,
Okay.
and the thought was, have I made an impact in the world? And the answer was, not enough. If I stay in this house with my comfortable clients and my comfortable friends, nothing is going to change till I die. So I sold the house, got rid of all the possessions, and went on a quest. And when I was in Greece for 5 weeks, as I was leaving, it occurred to me what I could do to make the world a better place. And so the Uber driver driving me there, I asked him this question: Antonio, what makes you happy? And he said, I work 12 hours driving an Uber, and in the evenings I go home and I take my 8-year-old son and my wife and we walk by the Mediterranean. And that makes me happy. So I've been asking people around the world, because it's never, when I get the Tesla, you got 3, so it doesn't count. Or I get the job, or I get the girl, or I get the whatever. No one has ever said that so far. It's always something attainable, simple, elegant, worthwhile. And the idea is somebody watching your happiness testimonial will go, you know what? I could do that.
Yeah. Well, look, it's very interesting because you're going down that path about, what makes you happy, your own path. And I would always, when I sit up in front of an audience, especially brokers, I say, are you making a difference? That's the question. Like, look, there's so many other industries, so many other businesses to be in. Real estate can be very lonely. There's a combination of things, stressful. But at the end of the day, can you make a difference? Can you make a difference in your family's life? Can you make a difference in your community's life? And can you make a difference in your agent's life? And that's really where and in your client's life, if you're a practicing realtor. It's funny, and I go with my mom, because my mom's been in the business 50 years. And my mom's, whenever she's not feeling very happy, she's got a special little file that is these kind of agent testimonials or cards that, they said, I tried something and it worked, and thank you for that few minutes, it just put me on track, and thanks for understanding what I was going through. And I think, to me, and I have to borrow a page from her, because I get the same thing on a weekend when I'll get a text from somebody saying, you know what, I saw that video you did, and I used that video, the dialogue, in a very uncomfortable situation, and it worked, and it felt right, and it was natural, and the client appreciated it. So to me, what makes me the most happy, again, I get to travel, I get to speak. When people tell me that, they text me or private message me and say, I did something that you talked about, or you brought something out in me that I never thought. To me, that's my happy place.
That's the wow, yeah, brilliant.
That's my happy place.
Me too. That's the wow in the work. When you get feedback saying you changed my life, or this really helped, it's like huge. Last question. Is there...
I like the Mediterranean thing.
Yes. If you're going to do it there.
Exactly. Yeah. Read those texts while you're walking the Mediterranean. Now you've got it.
So what is a mind hack you'd like to share with folks? Something that makes you more productive, happier, smarter, sexier, sleep better? What's a little simple trick you'd like to share with the world that they could use to just improve the quality of their life?
Well, it's a simple trick, but it's simple but yet complex. I'm a voracious reader, and when I'm reading things, I'm looking at a filter of how I can apply it to my life, and that's nothing new, but I don't think people do enough of it or listen to podcasts. I think it's really critical. I think it depends how you absorb information, but to me, reading, applying, when this whole pandemic came, I had to really, this whole virtual instruction, virtual life, like I just absorbed it and tried to find out the human behavior behind it and how to do it better. I think that's really what my personal thing is. Just stop, figure out where the gaps are in your life, in your business, and do some research. And look, I always find too, I have a huge library. Sometimes I go to books that are 10 years old, and I pull it out and I just say, hey, wait a minute, like this is a time to revisit this and reread. I think we don't do enough of that. Find that time to do it. I'm so blessed because I get to travel overseas, and I read probably, by the time I'm done my trip, 2-3 books. And look, and the other thing too, and I'll tell you, and Seth Godin said it. I watched it on a video, probably about a 20-year-old video. What changed his life was writing and writing a blog. It changed his life. And I started writing a blog, and it changed my life. And I thought, do I have a book in me? Possibly, right? I could have a book in me, but I felt when I was able to articulate and pull my life experience with what was going on today, it was liberating. To me, just sit down, start with analyzing stories and articles and give it your own 2 cents, and then start to develop your own voice. To me, it was liberating, and it made me a better human, a better leader, and a better broker owner as well, and industry person. I think it just did. It forced me to research and do what I enjoyed. I enjoyed my university life very much. And I brought it back, and the research and digging and finding those little nuggets that people really enjoy. I think that's critical. It takes a little effort, but it's soothing to me. I don't golf. I cook. So when you're cooking, it's by yourself and you're kind of analyzing things. And I read. Really, I think that to me has been my best, the best tidbit I can give you, and start writing things. My biggest regret in my life is I never wrote a journal. And when I was selling, when I was deep in the trenches, the stories and the life experiences of the time and the people you came, all lost, they come back. But I'll tell you, if you can capture it, that's the best.
Conrad, thank you so much for sitting down with me. And probably the biggest thing I took away was that last piece of advice. It's putting that filter on. When you're reading something, if it's like, I'm going to read this, that's fine. Or hopefully this teaches me something, it's fine. But if you go, what can I apply? Mm-hmm. It just focuses the mind, and that stuff's just going to pop up. If you didn't have that filter, it would not. Conrad, thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was awesome that you could be in Canada. And this is a great platform. And I watched some of your podcasts, do research on this. But you change questions around a little bit. So I couldn't do that much research. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's been amazing. So you're very talented. Quite talented. Thank you.
So now we're not recording that, but if you could just leave that one on for a minute.
Yeah.
And so what did you like about the interview, and what could have been better?
I liked it. It was nice flow, and you got a strong intuition. It's amazing you're talking about that AI, because we're really focusing on that AI with this new product. You kind of have a really strong intuition. Not a lot of people have that. You were able to pull that out.
No, thank you.
I thought it was free flowing. How could I have done better?
No, I think you were perfect. You were authentic and spoke from the heart.
Yeah, and that's what it is, right?
That's all you can do.
That's it. Yeah.
Because if you would have tried, I want to look smart, that would not have worked out. People can sense it.
Oh yeah, you can't. I think you got to be that authenticity and these canned kind of answers, the Matrix and no, you were great. I know, but you've got an intuition. You've got a real talent.